All Jared wanted was to come home and share a warm dinner with his family. But behind the smiles were distant eyes. He had given so much money, time, presents. And then one offhand comment shattered the silence. "You're just the one who wires the money." He didn't yell. He didn't beg. He simply walked away. And for the first time, he didn't look back. The late autumn sun filtered through the maple trees surrounding the old farmhouse in rural Vermont. Jared, 33, stepped out of his car after a 4-hour drive from Boston. He stood for a moment, stretching, taking in the quiet chill of the countryside. The trunk of his silver Subaru was packed with gifts, carefully chosen, lovingly wrapped. He walked up to the front door, where his father greeted him with a bear hug and a booming laugh. "Hey, you made it. Come in, we've been waiting." Inside, the house was cozy and bustling. The scent of roast turkey and mulled wine hung in the air. His younger brother Ben rushed to greet him, throwing his arms around Jared like a child. His grandmother, bundled in a wool shawl by the fireplace, looked up and smiled. Everything looked perfect, at least on the surface. From the kitchen, Jared's mother Linda gave him a smile, polite but reserved. She didn't move to hug him. It was the kind of look that asked questions without words. Jared hesitated but smiled back. Then Nina appeared. She stood leaning on the kitchen doorway, a wine glass in one hand, her expression unreadable. "Hi, Nina," Jared offered. She took a sip of wine, met his gaze briefly, and said nothing. Jared tried to blend in. He cracked jokes with Ben, asked his father about his knee, offered to help set the table. He told stories from work, complimented the turkey in the oven. Everything he said landed softly, acknowledged, but not absorbed. The room was full of warmth, yet Jared felt a strange distance, as if he were standing just outside the circle. The smiles were real, but something had shifted. Something unspoken lingered beneath the welcome. Dinner was in full swing. The turkey had been carved, plates filled with stuffing, cranberry sauce, and sweet potatoes. Laughter bounced from wall to wall, helped along by the second bottle of red wine and the comfort of shared tradition. Jared sat between his father and grandmother, doing his best to stay present, to belong. He told a light story about a malfunctioning app at work, earning a few chuckles. The clinking of cutlery filled the small silences. Then, casually, like tossing a pebble into a calm lake, Nina spoke. "Honestly," she said, swirling her wine, "you're not really family. You're just the guy who wires the money." The table stilled, just for a second. The moment passed so quickly, it could have been missed, mistaken for a joke. Someone laughed. Maybe Ben. Their father sipped his wine, avoiding eye contact. Their mother didn't react at all, just reached for more gravy. Jared froze. His fork hung midair. For a heartbeat, he didn't know if he was supposed to laugh too, or respond, or pretend it hadn't been said. He did none of those things. He put down his fork, picked up his glass, and smiled thinly. "Good one," he murmured. But something inside him pulled tight, quietly, invisibly. Like the faint crack in glass that no one notices until it's too late. Jared said nothing. The air had shifted, just slightly, just enough. He smiled when spoken to, nodded in all the right places. But under the table, his hand moved quietly, slipping into his pocket. The screen lit up. A banking app. His thumb hesitated for a moment over the Scheduled Transfers tab. One tap. The list appeared. $6,500, transfer to family account, scheduled. Tomorrow. Covering the winter electricity bill. Groceries. The Christmas deposits. He stared at it. Then, with a small, almost imperceptible breath, he canceled the transaction. "Are you okay?" someone asked. He looked up. "Yeah. Just checking work stuff." The evening carried on. Wine poured. Someone put on a record. Nina retold a childhood story, and laughter returned, tentative but warm. The room smelled of rosemary and cinnamon. No one noticed anything, at first. But then the oven clicked. A sharp click. The humming stopped. Jared glanced at the kitchen. The light inside the oven had gone dark. His mother stood frozen, holding a tray of unbaked pies. "What?" she started, tapping the buttons. Nothing responded. Silence stretched long and awkward. Ben opened the electric panel. "I think the breaker's fine." Outside, the wind picked up. Inside, the warmth began to ebb, not suddenly but gradually. The kind of cold that begins at the edges and works its way in. The living room, once filled with the glow of warm lights and soft music, had dimmed. The overhead bulb flickered faintly. The hum of the heating system sputtered and fell into silence. In the kitchen, the oven was still dead. Nina stood with her arms crossed, chewing her lip. Their mother hovered near the stove, tapping buttons again, willing it to come back. Jared sat calmly on the couch, scrolling through his phone, not really reading, just passing time. His face gave nothing away. Ben, the father, entered from the basement. His expression was a mix of concern and something else, a trace of suspicion. "Didn't you say you were covering utilities this month?" he asked, voice low but pointed. Jared looked up. His eyes met his father's. "I thought," Jared said quietly, "I was just the guy who wires the money." Silence. Heavy and still. Nina shifted her weight, visibly uncomfortable. Their mother turned her gaze away. Ben seemed about to speak, then didn't. A gust of wind pressed against the window panes. The lights flickered again, weaker this time. A candle was lit on the table. In that moment it became clear, something had broken, not just the oven or the power. The unspoken contracts, the invisible exchanges that kept this family running, had cracked. And now, without warmth, both literal and emotional, everyone felt the chill. Jared sat alone in the hallway, away from the murmurs in the kitchen and the occasional flicker of dying lights. The cold was seeping into the floorboards, but he didn't move. He wasn't thinking about the power outage anymore. His mind drifted backward. First, the hospital bill. $2,800. He'd wired it the same night Dad collapsed at the hardware store. No one asked if he could afford it. They were too busy worrying about Dad. So was he. Then, the heating bill last December. Vermont had one of its coldest winters. Pipes froze. Mom called crying. $1,200 wired before dawn. Next, the PS5 for Ethan, Nina's son. A birthday surprise. Jared had it shipped express. The boy screamed with joy. Nina posted a photo. She tagged family, but didn't mention Jared. More came to mind. Groceries. Flights. Rent once when Nina got laid off. It added up, but no one ever added it up. Jared realized it wasn't the money. Not really. It was the silence. The assumption that he'd give, always, without ever being asked how he was doing. As if he existed only in service to the family. He blinked slowly, eyes stinging. In the background, laughter returned, nervous, forced. Maybe the oven had restarted. Maybe someone lit more candles. But Jared stayed where he was, sitting with memories that had no thank yous, no hugs, just numbers sent into voids. And the thought came quietly, if I stopped giving, would they even ask why? Jared returned to the dining room, carrying his laptop. The others were still trying to salvage the evening, pouring wine, lighting more candles. The turkey was cooling in the dark oven. Conversations were careful now, punctuated with glances toward him. He didn't say anything at first. Just opened the laptop, clicked a few times. Then he turned the screen toward the room. On it, a digital receipt from 2 weeks ago. Espresso Works Barista Series machine, $429.99. Shipping address, Mom's name, home address. Purchased by Jaredus. Silence. Jared's mother leaned closer, squinting. Nina froze, glass in hand. A full 10 seconds passed before someone spoke. I thought, Nina started, then faltered. I thought that was from James. He told me he ordered it. No, Jared replied simply. He didn't. I did. The tension snapped like dry wood. Jared's father cleared his throat, uncomfortable. Mom's eyes flicked between her two children, uncertain who to believe. But the truth was on the screen, irrefutable. It wasn't about the coffee machine anymore. It was about erasure. About how easy it was for Jared's presence to be overwritten, repackaged, claimed by someone else. Even in generosity, he had been invisible. The laptop sat on the table, glowing faintly in the dark. No one reached to close it. Jared sat at the edge of the couch, the glow of his laptop still casting long shadows across the room. The silence after the coffee machine revelation hadn't quite lifted. The others busied themselves with small, uncomfortable tasks, clearing plates that no one had really touched, pretending the night hadn't curdled. Then Jared's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen. A text message. From Lucy. Nina's been paying off her credit card using your money. Just thought you should know. For a moment, Jared just stared at the words. Then he read them again. And again. Everything seemed to slow. In that moment, his expression didn't change drastically, but something in his eyes did. The quiet calculation, the flicker of realization. He wasn't just being forgotten. He was being used. The weight of Lucy's message hit deeper than he expected. It wasn't just about money. There was the betrayal, subtle, consistent, intentional. And it wasn't even hidden that well. He looked up, across the room, where Nina was now laughing nervously with their father, trying to steer the evening back into normalcy. Her voice didn't reach him. He turned the screen of his phone off, placed it face down on the table and leaned back. Now he wasn't just hurt. He was watching. It was almost midnight. Jared sat alone in the guest bedroom, the door shut behind him. His phone in hand, scrolling, not for distraction, but because he couldn't sleep. And then it appeared. A video, shared by a friend. Nina's TikTok. He tapped it. The clip showed her mimicking a bougie walk, throwing fake cash in the air while a text overlay read. That one sibling who only shows up when you need money face with tears of joy #BlackSheepPays. The video cut to a blurry photo of a luxury coffee machine. The comments were full of laughing emojis and inside jokes. Oh, we all have one. At least mine buys shoes face with tears of joy. That espresso machine looks familiar eyes. No name. No direct mention. But it didn't need one. Everyone in the house would know exactly who the joke was about. Jared didn't laugh. He didn't cry either. There was just a strange stillness in his chest, like a door quietly closing. He stared at the screen for a long time. Then he exited the app, placed the phone down, and turned off the light. For the first time that night, he felt something deeper than anger. Clarity. The next morning, breakfast was already on the table when Jared entered the kitchen. Quiet greetings were exchanged, and people tried to act as if nothing had happened. As if the power outage, the awkward silence, and the tension in the air were all imagined. But Jared wasn't pretending anymore. He returned from the guest room holding his laptop. Without a word, he placed it in the middle of the table, opened it, and pressed play. A recording began. Nina's voice came through first, sarcastic and sharp. He's not even really family. He just pays the bills and disappears. Then came their mother's voice, soft but unmistakable. Jared means well, but he always makes everything about money. He's not like us. And finally, their father. I don't know. It's like he thinks buying us things replaces being a real son. Silence fell over the table. Utensils froze mid-air. Eyes darted between one another. Nina's face turned pale. Their parents exchanged awkward glances. Jared didn't say a word. He didn't need to. The voices had done it for him. For the first time in years, he saw their reactions not with hope, but with distance, like someone finally stepping back far enough to see the whole picture. Just as the silence around the table grew unbearable, the front door creaked open. Lucy stepped in. Eyes turned toward her with confusion. No one had expected her, especially not Nina. She walked straight to Jared and handed him a folder. Inside, printed screenshots of Nina's messages, payment logs, and flagged transactions. Some labeled utilities, others gift reimbursements. But all traced back to Jared's accounts. Lucy's voice was calm but firm. I couldn't stay quiet. I thought you deserved to know. Jared opened the folder, flipping page by page. Each sheet revealed another manipulation, credit card bills paid, fake requests for money, even a message Nina had sent weeks ago. Got him again? Oh, he never even asks why. Just wires it like an idiot. Murmurs stirred. Jared didn't speak. He passed the folder around the table. Their father took it, then their mother, then Nina, who refused to touch it. Everyone could read the truth now. And then, without a word, Nina's boyfriend, who had been sitting in stunned silence, stood up. He looked at her, eyes filled with betrayal. "You lied to me too." He turned and left. The door shut behind him, leaving only Lucy still standing, and Nina sinking deeper into her chair. No one could pretend anymore. The room remained silent after Nina's boyfriend left. Everyone avoided eye contact with Jared, especially Nina, whose face was now flushed with equal parts anger and shame. Jared stood. He looked at each of them. His parents, Nina, and even the child who once received the PS5 he paid for. His voice was calm, steady. "You said I'm not family." He turned his gaze toward Nina, who couldn't meet his eyes. "But starting today, you'll learn what happens when I stop playing that role." He pulled out his phone. One by one, he logged into each app. He canceled the automatic transfers, rent assistance, utilities, grocery cards. He removed his name from shared accounts. He even sent a final message to his accountant. Cut all recurring family payments. Effective immediately. A soft gasp escaped from their mother. His father looked stunned. Jared didn't raise his voice. He didn't accuse. He simply finished what needed to be finished. Then he walked toward the hallway, grabbed his coat, and lifted his overnight bag. He paused at the door for just a second. "Happy Thanksgiving," he said, not sarcastic, just done. And then he was gone. Later that evening, in a small, quiet Airbnb outside of town, Jared sat alone with his laptop. He opened Facebook, uploaded screenshots, bank transfers, messages, the TikTok. He didn't name names. He didn't need to. Above it he wrote, "If I was just the bank, the wires are officially cut." He hit post. Within minutes, reactions poured in, likes, shares, comments. Friends he hadn't spoken to in years messaged their support. Strangers tagged him in threads, calling him brave, resilient, and overdue for peace. The post went viral. A conversation bloomed across social media about toxic family roles, emotional labor, and the silent burdens often carried by one person. But Jared didn't stay online long. He closed the laptop, exhaled deeply, and stood up. Next scene, Jared opens the door to a modest apartment. Clean, quiet. Just his things. No clutter, no debt, no emotional tax. He walks inside and sets his bag down. There are no grand decorations. No welcome party. But there is peace. He moves to the window, looks outside at the city lights in the distance. His face is calm. Then, for the first time in years, he smiles. Sometimes, walking away is not an act of revenge, but an act of reclaiming peace. Family isn't defined by blood, it's defined by respect, reciprocity, and recognition.